Hi Scorpio, and welcome to your extended forecast for the full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how this particular eclipse is likely to work if you've got Scorpio rising. So although it will apply to Sun, Moon, Venus or rising signs, generally speaking the best thing to do is to look at your rising sign horoscope, because then the houses will be correct. So what can you look forward to at this particular solar lunar event? Well, first of all, it's important to say that this marks the beginning or the gateway towards the second half of 2020. So in other words, the 6-month eclipse cycle that begins later in June with the solar eclipse in Cancer. So it's almost like the prelude. It's either going to give you a taster, or it's going to give you a chance to sort of do a bit of decluttering and consolidating before you move into a new 6-month eclipse cycle, one or the other. Now it's interesting that we are beginning a new Saros cycle, in the sense that the nodes have just ingressed into the Gemini-Sagittarius axis in the zodiac. So over the next 2.5 to 3 years we will be seeing more eclipses in these signs than we were in the cardinal signs, which is the cycle that we're kind of starting to leave. But this particular eclipse season will be one of those almost shoulder seasons where we'll have a mixture of eclipses in Gemini Sagittarius but also in Cancer Capricorn. So this is a really liminal time in many respects, and that's one way to also see this particular lunar eclipse, which I think will last for about 2 weeks until we then go into the new energy, the reset button being set with the solar eclipse in Cancer around about the solstice. So for Scorpios, this particular full moon falls in the area of your chart that is to do with possessions and resources of all kinds. So we've got the moon in your second house of self-worth, value, possessions. This is physical possessions, as well as earned income and any assets that you own. So that's where the moon is going to be. And then the Sun and Venus will be in your 8th house. So this tends to be shared resources. So resources that you share with a marriage partner, with a business partner, or a significant other. So it tends to rule things like alimony, tax, inheritances, bank loans, as well as immaterial resources such as trust, intimacy, all those kind of good things. So this tends to be where we see, it's the house of sex but also of intimacy. So those are the issues that are being highlighted for you at this particular lunar eclipse. So it could either be a case of closing things out along that axis, or it could be asking you to shift your perspective to see things from a different perspective when it comes to what possessions mean to you, what trust means to you, boundaries. That's another way that energy could work. So if we think that the moon is in Sagittarius in your second house, then it seems to be almost telling you that you need to consider how you consider or how you view or perceive financial security from a sort of subconscious point of view. So what does financial security mean to you in terms of feeling safe, for example? What have you absorbed from your family in terms of values around money? Could this be kind of holding you back when it comes to sort of earning potential? Have you inherited, for example, a poverty mentality? Because the moon here seems to be saying you need to sort of expand emotionally when it comes to the way that you view assets. So it could also be, kind of being more generous, having a kind of pay it forward attitude. That's one way this could work. And then on the other hand, we've got the Sun and Venus traveling in your 8th house. Now, Venus will be retrograde in Gemini, and here Venus it might be bringing up past issues to do with trust, betrayal, intimacy. How many people do you let in? Could this be holding you back in some respect? And interestingly, the Sun and Venus, as well as the moon, will be making a T-square to Mars in Pisces, which falls in your 5th house, which is the house of kind of new relationships and new romantic relationships, as well as creative collaborations and children. So somehow whatever's happening in the 8th house, particularly if you find yourself revisiting relationship issues from the past, this seems to be kind of tied into what's happening in the 5th house. And with Mars here, Mars will be with Neptune in Pisces, and So it can sort of mean some kind of disruption or possibly conflict on some level. Something will sort of niggle you, will kind of want to draw your attention to an area that you know, that may be pertinent to what's happening in your second and your eighth houses. So it could be, for example, that you start to run into problems with a creative collaboration, and this has to do with the lack of trust, for example. So maybe you haven't signed a contract with this person or this company, and you no longer feel that the collaboration or the arrangement suits you financially anymore. Maybe you don't feel as though you're getting enough money out of whatever's happening, and you need to renegotiate the contract. Or it could be that you know, perhaps on some level, a holiday, maybe there was a holiday romance, maybe you met somebody when you were sort of last able to sort of travel, or through your children's you know, kind of activities, through school or after school activities, and that this is kind of somehow awoken in you certain realizations that you have around shared resources. So, you know, that's another way that this could work. And of course then there's the sort of the romantic aspect, which is of course tied into sex and trust. Who do you sort of let in, who don't you let in? Is there somebody that you're interested in but they're not financially secure, for example? And is this making you hesitate, you know, in terms of taking the relationship forward? These are all potential issues that could come up for resolution around about this lunar eclipse and over the 2 weeks that follow, you know, which is part of the waning moon cycle. So those are kind of the main themes for you, Scorpio. Minor themes include a trine between the moon to Chiron and Black Moon Lilith in Aries. So this kind of focuses on your 6th house. So this is potentially physical healing. It could also be to do with you know, finding healthier a healthier work-life balance, healthier routines that allow you to function you know, much better physically. You know, that's another way that this could work. But there's certainly potential here for healing, and part of this might have to do with freedom of movement or independence. So maybe you decide you want to speak to your boss about working part-time from home because you've really enjoyed working from home during lockdown, and you feel that it gives you a better work-life balance when it comes to your children, for example, or having more spare time to go to you know, to sort of jog after work or go to the gym, all those kinds of things. So those are just some of the ways that this dynamic will, you know, could potentially sort of work. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to doing a geoscope for you, so a geomancy reading, and we can look at kind of drill down to see how these issues might play out in a, you know, in a much more mundane way by using the geomancy oracle. So as you can see, I've set up the casting cloth, and the cards are ready. They've been sitting with a jasper, and they are ready for us to use. So let's see what comes out. So the question that I've posed is, what wisdom, messages or lessons does this particular full moon lunar eclipse have for Scorpio? Also, I'd love your feedback. You know, I'm thinking of making this a regular feature on my YouTube channel, you know, doing geoscopes as opposed to astrological readings on my YouTube channel, and then keeping my individualized horoscopes for members of my website and my newsletter, and just doing kind of more astrology focused cosmic weather forecasts on IGTV. So I'd love your feedback on whether you're enjoying the geoscopes, whether you find them resonating or not. And you know, I'm trying a number of different techniques. This is just a little oracle I've developed for myself, so I'm not strictly following the rules of geomancy per se. I'm doing this more intuitively, so it's almost a kind of a mixture of tarot card and you know, kind of astrology / geomancy kind of approach. But anyway, let's see what the cards have to tell you. So the first figure out is Caput Draconis. Now this card is the North Node. So this is the head of the dragon in sort of ancient sort of mythological terms. So this is the where kind of incoming soul lessons, incoming soul contracts, fresh beginnings on a karmic level. So it's interesting that we've got this reset happening with the nodes moving into a new set of signs. So that's quite an interesting sort of overlap. Then next up we've got Fortuna Major. So this is the Sun in Leo. It's fire energy, and this is really about kind of expansion and good fortune. So this is serendipity. This is kind of luck. And potentially also financial gain. So this is abundance, on many levels. So that's really positive, and it seems to suggest that there may be abundance coming from your private life, so from your home life, possibly from a property, for example, if you've decided to sell a property. It could be an inheritance, or it could be a gift or a talent or an ability that you've inherited through your ancestral line. Then we have Carse. Now this is Saturn in Capricorn. This is earth energy. So this is almost opposite to the fiery energy that we've got here. Now Saturn, of course, has been very prominent in certainly from January, when we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunctions in the sign of Capricorn. Saturn is currently retrograding and will return to Capricorn briefly, as we get further into the second half of the year. So that's just something to bear in mind. It may be that certain issues return and need kind of resolution or sorting out that are related to significant partnerships, so marriages, business partnerships, that kind of thing. But on some level, Carse is about limitation, restriction, or boundaries. So that may be significant here. Then, interesting, we've got Cauda Draconis. So this is the tail of the dragon. So we've got the head and the tail of the dragon. So this is the nodal axis. Now, Cauda Draconis is in many ways about things leaving. So it's what we are releasing. So this is the end of a karmic cycle kind of happening. And this is in your 10th house. So this suggests that on some level a soul mission may be kind of coming to an end, and you may be starting a new cycle, which is why we've got Caput Draconis here. But something in the public domain, or to do with your career or your public profile, or an office that you've held, public office, is coming to an end. So what I'm going to do now is just pause the video while I go and do the conversions so that we can get the rest of the geomantic figures. So I'll be back in a minute. Hi Scorpio, welcome back. So this is your conversion chart for your reading. I won't dwell on it too much, except to say that you can download this conversion table from my website. Just go to astrologysphere.com and you'll see the geomancy page on my front page, and this will take you to a space where you can download the conversion sheet, which has got instructions on it for how to do these conversions. That's just if you're interested in experimenting with geomancy yourself. So just a heads up, I haven't used the consecutive numbering that is printed on this conversion table. I'm instead using the Golden Dawn system. So I've put the four mothers in the cardinal house positions. The daughters are then in the succedent, and then the four nieces make up the cadent houses. So anyway, let's have a look at your reading so that we can get into exactly what it means. So as you can see, I have laid out the cards in their correct house positions. So let's resume our reading. So as I was saying in the first part of the reading, the houses that are emphasized by this particular full moon eclipse are the second house and the eighth house. So it's really interesting to me that we've got gain in the second house. So this is the sense of financial gain or a boost to your self-confidence happening at this particular full moon. And somehow it has to do with standing up for yourself, because we've got Puer in the eighth house, which is kind of like defending your boundaries. It's asserting yourself perhaps when it comes to getting your fair share of joint resources. So, you know, if you've got shared assets of some kind, maybe one member of the or one party within the agreement has sort of had the lion's share of, say, profits, for example, and it may be now that you need to sort of assert yourself and sort of come up with a kind of fairer arrangement. But certainly it does seem as though there is through standing up for yourself, potentially to do with a past matter or to do with previous agreements or to do with maybe a shift when it comes to your self-worth, you could reap a lot of financial benefits. Now, it's interesting that we've got Caput Draconis in the sixth house. Now this, as I said, is the house of work and of everyday kind of activity. So it's almost as though it's saying that a new cycle is starting for you, a new kind of soul cycle is starting when it comes to work. So I'm wondering if there's not a kind of a career change going on here, because we do have Counter Draconis here, which is the end of the cycle. So there's something to do with your public profile, your public life. So this is very often, you know, if you're famous or if you are in the public eye, that it's changing. And again, we have the same symbol in the 11th house, which is kind of group social media and sort of friendship. So something is shifting in the public domain, the way that people see you, or in what you sort of do, what you stand for, that is leading to gain, financial gain, but also a boost to your self-worth. And this is a major theme, because we've got Fortuna Major as one of your witnesses, and we've got Fortuna Major in your fourth house. So I do see it kind of an internal shift happening within you. That's, look, I mean, this is another of your internal houses. This is the sort of house of dreams, of the subconscious, of the collective unconscious mind. So and also of your own sort of subconscious. So there definitely seems to be a shift going on that's allowing you to reap enormous rewards. But it does seem to come at the expense of something, having to cut something away. That's what Corsair is about. It's about kind of reducing, putting limits on. So in other words, not allowing something to sort of blow out of proportion, not allowing certain activities to continue. So kind of bringing something to an end, for example, or standing up for yourself and saying, no, I'm not prepared to tolerate that sort of treatment anymore. So it's interesting that we've got Corsair here in the 7th house and the 5th house. So it may well be that if you're in a creative endeavor, for example, if you're in a creative industry and you earn your money from creativity, it could be that something is shifting now. You may be kind of moving in a different direction artistically, maybe switching medium, for example. So going from, say, writing to music, or from music to the creative arts, or from films to TV, or there's something that has to be cut back. Here, of course, it could also be a romantic relationship, because this is the 5th house, so it relates to children, but also to lovers. This is new relationships, so kind of passionate connections. And we have the card reiterated here in the 7th house, so this is also significant relationships or partnerships. So this may be what needs to change or shift, is either the amount of energy that you're giving to either a significant partnership. So it may be, for example, that you decide to end a business partnership with an agent, for example, with a manager. It could also be that you decide to get divorced, and that this could involve a shift when it comes to children, or it could be that you decide to sort of forego romantic relationships for the foreseeable future, so that you can focus on self-worth and career. That's another way that this could work. So, you know, deciding to sort of do you. But the reason that I say this is that we have got this. The overall card for your reading is a Missio, which is Venus in Taurus, and this is about loss. So it's interesting that we've got this enormous gain kind of happening, but it seems to be coming at the expense of a loss. So in other words, from loss comes gain, and this seems to be about the end of one cycle, the end of a relationship or a partnership, and the beginning of something new. So this is why we've got Caput Draconis, the start of a new cycle in your first house, and it's emphasized again in your sixth house. So this is, as I say, work and everyday routines, day-to-day living. So there does seem to be either a major career change happening for you, or potentially a working partnership, or some kind of shift in relationships, perhaps because you start to stand up for yourself more, you assert yourself more, that then leads to a brand new kind of soul cycle. It's kind of like you're coming into alignment with your soul purpose, your mission. You're getting really clear, and this is because of an internal shift that's happening for you, that is allowing you to perhaps get more of a sense of where your gifts and your talents lie, to tap into ancestral gifts or natural abilities, or it's also, or it could be to do with self-worth, just kind of really getting a sense of understanding who you are and what you have to offer, that then allows you to attract more, that you deserve more, and you therefore, when you believe that, you would kind of attract more. So again, a really positive reading. As I say, this is a full moon lunar eclipse, so we are talking about endings and culminations, and so it's interesting that we've got this sense in these quadrograms. We've got sort of endings, but also this culmination, so gain from loss. So I'm just going to read you the keywords for these three cards. So Fortuna Major is great fortune, good luck, chance, power, effortless success, social mobility, winning disposition, victory, inner strength, and natural charisma. So as I say, this could be to do with your gifts, your sort of natural, this kind of elevation of your self-worth that we're talking about here. But equally, it could be some kind of career opportunity kind of coming in, that allows you to sort of express yourself differently. So that's one of the symbols. And then Kase is imprisonment, isolation, delays, binding confinement, borders, locks, limits, restraint, and restrictions. So it could be a contract that is ending now. It could be some kind of contract, whether it's a marriage contract, for example, or whether it's a business contract, a creative contract with a manager or an agent or a publisher or something of that ilk, that allows you to shift in a different direction. And then a missio is transience, loss, breakups, separations, what is attainable or out of reach, to reject, leave, decline, lose, or be stranded, self-destructiveness, theft, financial ruin. So, given that we've got such a positive card in your finance section, I don't think it's financial ruin. I think it has more to do with a breakup. So either the breakup of a relationship, a significant relationship, or it has to do with realizing that a cycle or some kind of collaboration or aspect of your career is over, and it is time for a fresh new start, which is perfect. So this realization comes sort of in the 2 weeks leading up to the reset button that is the solar eclipse in Cancer, which happens I think on June 21st. So this is absolutely perfect timing to be making this realization and getting yourself ready so that you can then take advantage of the new start that happens later on in June. So I hope you found this helpful. Do leave me comments in the the comments box below. Feel free to subscribe if you're enjoying these geoscopes. Then you'll always be notified if a new one is posted. And all the best, full moon blessings to you, and I will see you for the new moon in Cancer later on in June.